Hi everyone, this is Chris from A Bar Above, and today we're going to take a different look at the bar than we have in any post in the past. Today we're going to look at our bar from our guest perspective, so stay tuned. So a few months ago, our family met up for dinner, and we chose a restaurant kind of out in the middle of nowhere. I think the population of the town is literally only a few hundred. But we knew that the food was good here, and it was definitely worth the journey. So when we arrived, as an occupational hazard, I quickly started to scan the bar to decide if I was going to have the beer that I thought I was going to have, or if I was going to venture off and have a cocktail there. And the moment I started looking around, I knew that the beer was not an option anymore. And there's a couple things that cued me in that they were running a really great bar program there. And that is the tools that they were utilizing and the liquor selection that they had behind the bar. I instantly knew that the cocktail program was well thought out and I was in for a treat that night. So this brings me to the point that as a cocktail designer, as a mixologist, as a bartender, whatever it is that we want to call ourselves, we have invested a lot of time and energy in educating ourselves through reading cocktail books, history, developing our palate and really understanding our craft, but a consumer is not going to know that unless we help them out. So here's a few visual cues that you can invest in that will demonstrate to your guests that you run a great bar program. Now, if I walk into a bar and I see a mixing glass on the bar, I instantly know that you're practicing good techniques. You know that certain cocktails should be stirred and not shaken, and that you've invested in some of your equipment to elevate that image and portray that to your guests. Now, for example, if I were to walk in a bar and I see a pint glass on the bar, I don't know if that's leftover beer from a guest. I don't know if you're shaking cocktails in that. I don't know if that's what you're utilizing to stir with. That's not giving me a lot of information. So the mixing glass definitely accomplishes that point. The other thing is just the tools that you're using. So for example, if you've invested in a julep strainer, it's only a couple dollars, but once again, it reinforces that thought that these guys are practicing good techniques, they're investing in their equipment, they probably know what they're doing. And I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys this. Now, if you go into a bar and you see this guy versus a couple of really good bar spoons, you know, it portrays a certain image. For me, if I see somebody that's invested in a good bar spoon, I'm pretty certain they know how to use it and when to use it. If I see this behind a bar, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure if the bartender even knows what this is for, or if they're going to know how to use it properly. So little tiny visual cues on their tools will definitely portray a lot of information. Now, if your bar program produces your own in-house products like tinctures, bitters, you know, anything like that, syrups, you should display those products, and you don't need to invest a lot of money to do so. For example, these are just vinegar bottles that you would find in oil or vinegar bottles that you would find in like a pizza place, but it shows that you've put a little bit of thought. So instead of seeing an Angostura bottle completely covered in bitters and you know what else, this gives a lot better image, and it shows that you put a little bit of thought in there. Not very expensive, but it's the energy and the thought that counts. The other thing is little tiny finishing touches. For example, atomizers and eyedroppers, you know, they're not going to affect a huge flavor difference in your cocktails, but it demonstrates that you know that there are little tiny small steps that will just finesse that cocktail and make it even better. Now, as far as other visual cues that you can look for, or that a guest could look for to kind of tip them off that they're in a great bar, that is glassware. So if your bar is utilizing just run-of-the-mill, bottom shelf restaurant supply store glassware, it doesn't give you a lot of information. You know, you don't have to spend a lot of money on your glassware. And actually, if you went to Goodwill and just invested in some unique pieces of glass, it's not going to cost you a lot of money, and it's going to add a whole nother layer of visual, you know, cues of quality. The other thing is, you know, if I walk into a bar and I see a barrel on the back bar, I'm immediately going to order a cocktail because I know they're kind of paying attention to some of the trends that are out there. The spirit selection is the same thing. So if I see a bottle of mezcal on the back bar, if I see a good selection of rye, I know that that bar program is paying attention to some of the cutting edge and leading trends in mixology. Now, on the other side of that, if I sit down at a bar and I see a bottle of vermouth on a black bar, immediately that raises a flag. Like, I don't know how long that's been there. If it's a high volume bar, sure, I get that. They're going to go through that product fast enough. But I don't know, even at that point, if I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. So, and if I see dust on that bottle, there's no way I can order a cocktail. I'm probably just going to go ahead and order a beer. So these are some of the visual cues that we should be aware of that we're portraying to our guests. And, a little bit of thought will go a long ways. And, there's not a lot of investment that needs to happen here, but just make sure that you have a clear message of what you're telling your guests. So I hope you found this interesting, and we'll have some more information in other videos in the future. But until then, I hope you guys have a great shift, and cheers. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on Google+, or visit us at abarabove.com.